Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Theory of Relatives podcast, the real episode 5. I misspoke last episode. I am relative Alex.
Relative Nick checking in.
The Reg.
And I'm Relative Derek checking in. And today we got a good podcast for you today. We're going to be going over Black Superman. Warner Brothers wants to hire cast Black Superman and a Black director. Then we're going to go into exploitation, into Black trauma in films. And then we're going to go into COVID dating. So let's go into the first topic we have here. So Black Superman. So Warner Brothers wants to hire a Black Superman, and they want to go ahead with a Black director and producers. How do you guys feel about what they're doing right now? The floor is free to anybody. Go ahead.
Good, y'all. Anybody want to go ahead and jump on this? I'll start it off.
Go for it.
I don't like this idea. Only if for one instance, if they replace the classic Superman or Clark Kent or Kal-El, as he's known, if they replace him with a black actor, I don't find that to be a good move in the sense that the history behind how he looks is tied to it and everything. Even though Krypton is a fictional planet, but that character, having been played by George Reeve rather, and it's just, I don't know, it's not a good move. There is, however, a Black Superman. There are two Black Supermen. In the comics, there's Val Zod. Now, if they were to do that story, I would rather that because, it doesn't seem performative or, half-baked and just throwing it to appease some kind of tick off some minority support progressive box. So I'm not with it.
Oh, I definitely agree with you. Because I always wondered what would happen if Superman was black. I unfortunately did not read any of those comics, so I don't know the background of Val. What's his name again? Val
Zod.
Val Zod. So I always wondered, what happens if Superman did grow up in, like, let's say Detroit, and then he had the rough upbringings from the hood or whatever. How those actions would affect him and his choices and going about life. Kind of like taking that dark, twisted path of Batman. With the Superman, background, one parent or something like that, and then see, what kind of choices would he do. Would he kill? Would he save people? Would he just, sometimes save things? Would he sign up for a team? I always wondered how that would have been.
Well, to be honest with you, I am all for it. I think that this is a great idea. I would love for a Black Superman to come out. The Val Zod story, I don't know much about it. I know that he exists. And
Same here.
hey, that it could be its own little separate thing, an entity. Hey, they did it with Joker just recently, and everybody was, in applaud of it and loved it, and so much so they're doing a part 2. I personally would like to see a completely different character. Maybe, a Black Superman out of Mississippi, maybe out of Georgia or something like that,
dope.
and then moves over to the big city and starts to change things up. And honestly, you know what? I'd like to see these different stories come out, and I know they'd be successful. When you think about it, look at the movie Brightburn, where we had the kid with the powers, just like Superman, but he was evil, and that was a really good movie. Overall, I enjoyed it all the way through. Creeped me out, but it's supposed to, and I was all for it. I think ultimately, let's do it. Why not? More black faces on TV, in the movie theaters. It's all awesome to me.
Now, do we feel that this might feel like pandering at this point?
It can be. It can be. It like I agree with both of you on Funzy, Derek, Funzy, and Red. Is a history of kind of just getting with the time. times and race baiting because that's the hot topic now, and progressivism or the look of being progressive is in right now, so they want to cash in on that. And oh, sorry, can you hear me now? Um, yeah, sorry. You let me know if you can hear me. But the look of being progressive is very in right now, so it is deliberate. But at the same time, I do believe you can and should tell other stories, but tell them with care. Develop these characters, and there are a lot of existing Black comic characters that the mass public are not familiar with, and they can capitalize on that and put them out there. But they need to tell a good story and develop it correctly. So it's a balance between the two. I don't want to be pandered to for a cash grab, but at the same time, of course, I want to see more Black faces in film, and I want more opportunities for Black directors and writers to tell their stories, and they don't have to be struggle stories. They don't. They can be anything. But to let Black creators flex their talent, and comic book movies are very popular. They've been for the last.
Guys, let me know then. So, who do you think would play a good Black Superman? And please, please don't say Michael B. Jordan.
I think Michael. Oh, never mind.
Everybody, that's the general consensus. Nobody wants to see Michael do it. No, like
he's a
everywhere.
bit
Everybody
oversaturated.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. He just released that new movie on
Without
Amazon
remorse.
and it was dope. But he's just in everything right now. Don't get me wrong. I love him in Creed, but I can't give him this one. I can't give him
Hollywood,
something else.
they'll overuse the shit out of this, like the same 12 people in everything. You know how Hollywood acts.
So give me a name. Give me a name.
I think
original dude. The red something from that show everybody's watching, Bridgerton.
Oh, that guy?
Yeah, that guy could do it.
Reggie Jean something.
Yeah.
He doesn't look for me, and I'm just standing him right now, but I like Aldous Hodge a lot. And Yahya Mateen, I think he's
I don't want.
You don't like Yahya?
I don't like Yahya.
He's already in Marvels. He was the Black. What the hell?
In
Black
Watchmen.
Mamba. He was an Aquaman.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Black Manta.
What about you?
Black Manta.
I'm gonna say go with a no name.
A no name.
Because we're going into uncharted territories by making Superman black, and not everybody's familiar with Val Zod if that's the route they choose to go with, and might as well bring a new face that's synonymous with the new story. So that's it.
I actually agree with you.
And I say go with Reg because he was up to go ahead and try to get into that Krypton show. Remember that from a little while ago, and he just came out that he tried to go ahead and get in, and he applied for it. He was going to play a grandfather or a great grandfather of Superman, and he was denied because he was black. I think this is the perfect time to go ahead and allow him to say, "Hey, let's get you for Superman." He's already hot right now. Yeah, he's hot right now. People want to see him. His star is starting to burn bright. Let's put him on. Put 20 pounds on him. Put him in the cape.
Some people said he's too short. So, I saw it in the comments. I don't know if that's true or not, but some say like Superman needs to be 6'1" and up.
Semantics. They got camera angles and tricks for that. They'll be all right. Yeah, just put some more muscle on them. Yeah. Don't shoot inserts.
Got high heels.
Shazam did it.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise.
The dude that played Shazam had a padded suit on.
You see?
But he worked out though.
6'6", and he straight up
5'6".
all the time. Like he's 6 foot.
Yeah,
Tom
he wears
Cruise is like 5'2".
Yeah, he wears Talon.
and he's had a stellar career for years.
Exactly, and no one knows the difference. He's beating everybody up on screen.
He stands on a shoebox for most of his scenes, and he's done fine.
Okay. So height don't matter.
I guess
That is
I
true.
guess so. I guess so.
Oh, he's
Uh,
5'7".
See, like I agree with Funzy. Like I wouldn't mind a no name because like if I watch all these YouTube videos, you see a lot of these creators have the talent, and then they actually act good, in these little I'm not gonna say
Fan
movies,
made stuff.
but fan made stuff. You would see it.
Yeah.
Like, let the fan. You that's what it should be. Let the fans take control of a movie one time. Get like
Snyder cut and that's it, man. They ain't doing it again. They are
You
not
got to.
doing that again.
You need a director's cut, with this project, and then just give it to somebody new. If you're already looking for a new director and casting, why not just go all new? Maybe get some new heads.
Absolutely.
Maybe that'll bang some of their heads up in WB. Like, oh, we never looked at this, and then maybe they'll start making some good decisions because right now their movies suck. I'm just gonna say it.
Yeah, man, it's
WB
not.
making good decisions? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Even if they let them on the creative writing team, that would be enough. So they could, check the whoever's in there to be like, look, guy, no, okay, you need to do it like this. This is what people want. It's the same thing with Star Wars. A lot of the fan made stuff is way better than the canon stuff that comes out. And it's like, why is it that some Joe Schmo and his buddy who practices Taekwondo, okay, could make a better fight scene in a better movie than, the execs? It's because they're in tune with it. They know it. They breathe that stuff. And it's like, they need an injection of that in order to make good content.
The problem with Hollywood is it's a big buddy club, and they keep putting their friends on, and everybody's allowed to fail up. And a lot of these people they just don't have the chops for real without guidance, and they're not willing to step outside and get people that are in love with the material and care about the material. Unfortunately, it's like it has more chance for these things to fail than be successful, but they stick with their same little clique, unfortunately, and the fans lose out.
It's either the same clique or the top IG people that nobody care about. Just like, we need to put this top influencer who has 1 million followers in this movie. Why? They can't act. Why?
Theoretically, it makes sense, right? Because they want to put butts in seats, which means ticket sales. So they're like, hey, there's already 3 million people that follow this person. Maybe those 3 million people will go see this movie. So
now you have a crap movie. Crap movie
that
now.
shit doesn't always work, That and people forget, just because they're followers, a lot of followers are idle. Like, most celebrities probably only get like 10% of actual interaction on their account. So it's like, if you got like 10 million followers, maybe 1 million to 500,000 of these people are actually watching what you're doing. It's not all 10 million that are looking, liking, clicking, and putting comments. That's not the reality. So that's very hit or miss, more than you think.
I think there's another aspect of it too. When you have a trusted face that's known to put, booties in seats, then you go with that. It makes more sense because you are taking a huge risk. There's millions of dollars on the line if this flops, and it's just like an everyday investment. You think I think right now, if I go out right now and I go buy a water hose, and I spend $20 on that water hose, and it flops, I'm gonna be mad. You know what I'm saying? Because this is just gonna be a problem. So I could only imagine if you sit there and you say, all right, I'm gonna put $80 million of my own cash, and I'm gonna put it on this no-name actor that nobody knows, might not like.
Don't put 80 mil.
See, then now
but then the movie's gonna look cheap.
No, you pay the
flying wire fool.
No, you spend the money where it counts. You make sure it looks good, the production's proper, but you don't come out with these Marvel Robert Downey Jr. kind of paydays, like 40 mil just with. You can't do shit like that.
Absolutely.
And that's where a lot of the bloat comes from. And there are smart ways to direct your Joker. Would cost like what? Then that, mind you, Warner Brothers is playing games with Joker, but that movie only cost like, I think 60 or 70 mil.
There's no special effects. He's just a guy, you know.
Yeah. Granted, it fit the type of story they were telling, so it worked.
Absolutely.
And most of these Superman movies are gonna be CGI heavy, and that's where the money
Yes.
should be spent. But
Absolutely.
pay a smaller dude that's hungry, that's going to act his ass off. You give that dude like 5 mil or 10 mil or whatever, and keep your budget not more than 100. I don't know if that's possible. I'm probably talking out my
Yeah.
butt because I'm not in the film industry.
No, here's the
But
thing. You're right,
yeah,
because what they're gonna do is, like what Reg said, you need a name that's gonna put butts in seats. The Superman brand alone, due to the last couple of flicks, nobody's gonna be flocking to the theaters. So
yeah,
what you do is, okay, unknown name lead, but we got Academy Award nominee, blah 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 blah, in it as well. So it's like, okay, I don't know this new guy, but I do like such and such actor. So they'll kind of counterbalance their risk with putting a sure shot name in there.
it's tricky, man, because
It's
even
tricky.
people they know can flap. Like look at like Chris Hemsworth. He's Thor, right? He's seen
Hmm.
everywhere. Anything that's not Thor barely makes bread.
Men in Black.
Like I saw him in Rush. I saw Rush the other day, which came out years ago, and I'm like, this movie was tough. I liked
Got the
it.
racing movie.
Yeah,
It was
and
good.
it barely got any love when it came out.
Yeah, I don't even know it.
Supposedly. Yeah, and it was pretty straight. But if it's not Thor related, it's people are more nowadays, and there's a lot of commentary on this online. Nowadays, people are more married to the IP, the brand, than so much the celebrity. Celebrities, it's hit or miss. Even The Rock has his misses, even though he's super white hot right now, and can attract people. But can he do it outside of Fast 9, outside of Jurassic, or I don't know if he's outside of Jumanji or whatever. So
And
it's very hit or miss with these celebrities, and there are a lot of actors that people like but don't necessarily go out to see. One that always comes to my head, people like him, but they don't go check his movies if he's a solo act, and that's Colin Farrell. People like him, they like him, but you look at his track record, you don't sell tickets. No,
Mm,
The
does
Rock
have to
is
if
make
he
it.
does, it's in a franchise.
Yeah.
The Rock is an anomaly because literally everything he touches makes money.
Not everything.
Rampage, which you would consider his worst movie,
Yeah.
$428 million.
Yeah,
Okay,
but for the expense of Rampage, remember too, the people get these padded numbers from the foreign box office, which is only 25% that they get out of that bread. That's one. And then if the movie's costing like 200 mil, marketing costs 200 mil. So if that movie's already out the gate costing 250 mil, that movie really needs to make damn near $1 billion to be a true profit.
120 mil. And I'll
Yeah,
say
it needs to make
200 mil for marketing. So they still made a profit with 428, even though it was off of Italia. You know what I'm saying?
the actual
England.
movie industry rules is it needs to make minimum three times what it costs, all the costs, to truly be a profit. 3.
Yeah, breaking even isn't cool for Hollywood.
No.
Dang, that's rough. 3 times.
3 times. And that's why all the snafus with Warner Brothers, because Man of Steel didn't make $1 billion. There was a lot of mistakes made with how they handled their movies, but once they weren't making bank like they thought it would, because it looks pretty and it's a pretty looking movie. Henry Cavill he looks good on screen, but people weren't feeling it, and it didn't trend to make that $1 billion that they wanted from their other IP, like the Dark Knight series. So that's why they start freaking out and trying to rush it, and then messed up the whole franchise.
Dark Knight.
So you think the marketing was the issue then?
No, not with that movie.
I don't
No,
think
Not
so.
that
with
movie.
the Superman
I don't
movie, it wasn't the
That's the
marketing
story.
that was the issue. It was the
It's the
story.
story.
That
He's not a good
story
story.
was horrible. He had
BVS,
Superman
Batman vs.
snapping necks. He destroyed the entire city. The whole city was gone. No life was spared. The only thing that was missing was the blood and guts and the carnage. Nothing was spared. Everyone died, and then and then on top of it, you have Lois. Oh my God, I hate her so much in this movie. Lois has been so likable in the comics, and even in Smallville, she was wonderful. You like Lois. In this, Lois, you wanted to snap her neck. She was horrible. and then you tried to put it together and understand her, but you couldn't. It's like, yo, you told this man where my mom is, and he attacked her and tore down my house. It's because of you that that my mom almost died, and I'm gonna kiss you. I'm attracted to you. What? And that's why the movie failed. Because when people tried to put all that together, they're like, no, this doesn't make any sense. This is garbage. And they walked away from it, and they didn't want to see it again. And then with all the damage, they even told it came out to billions of dollars.
Yeah, they did a fictional estimate of what the damage would have been cost. It was like $852 billion.
Damn.
$1 billion.
It's like, no.
And the loss of life would have been thousands.
I don't mind dark takes on comic book movies. I don't mind them at all, but the storytelling has to be tight, and I think that's just what it is. And it's very subjective as far as what people like, and because you can have a dark comic book movie that's really messed up and dark and sinister, like
Blade
or
it's just that
Spawn
movie
back in the day. Like, I love that movie, but it's the storytelling, and you have to make the actors likable. And I feel like Henry Cavill is a good actor, but he's kind of just blah. Like, for me, I realized I tried to watch Man of Steel again, and I watched it again, and I realized, like, damn it, this movie just does not have good impact for me. Like, when he finally popped up on the screen with his suit, I almost missed it because it was just so dry. His interactions with his father. And I'm like, the story in itself, the elements on paper is dope. It's dope to see what happened to Krypton, the beef between the politics that ended up destroying that planet. These are cool things. Superman being conflicted about being roped up into human problems all the time. These are interesting concepts, but it's just for whatever. I don't know how to fix that. It's just the portrayal just didn't hit, and the storytelling just didn't hit. I think Zack Snyder is a great visual artist. He knows how to make beautiful looking movies, but the storytelling and the writing is I don't like it.
And to direct action scenes too. He knows how to make stuff
He's a visual guy.
Very, very pretty. Yeah.
He makes good visuals, but like storytelling and building likable characters, I just don't. I rewatched Watchmen. His version of Watchmen, I did not like that movie. And a lot of people tout that as his best. I didn't like it. 300, that's a movie that I appreciate for its time, but it's a little corny now looking at it with the slow-mo and all that dumb shit. And everything's in sepia brown. Even though stylistically, it's cool, but it's kind of silly too. But I appreciate 300 for what it is. But after that, I like elements of his movies, but the storytelling just never really fully landed for me. And they're too convoluted. Like, Batman vs Superman was convoluted for no fucking reason.
I really need to go back and watch BVS because,
no, you don't.
It's convoluted. It's convoluted. It hasn't its enjoyable elements, but it's convoluted as hell.
I just remember the Batman fight scene. That was
the highlight of the movie.
That was the highlight of the movie.
Turn it off after that. I like the nightmare sequence in Batman vs Superman and the factory scene, and you could turn it off after that. For me.
Wow.
Dang.
And that whole movie made me sick. It was horrible too. Batman branded people to be killed in prison.
Even the Ultimate Edition.
This.
Okay, so now, so now that we're talking about films, so let's talk about black trauma in films. Now we've been seeing a trend of a lot of movies coming out where we will see exploited black trauma in films where police brutality, and then people going through the struggle. You would see an increase of these type of movies coming out just recently. Like, I just saw one coming out just recently with Ice-T. And the trailer looks amazing. I'll have to look up the name, but it's like they're getting paid to tell this story of us in pain. over and again. So we have to keep reliving this, even though we've been through it so many times already. And then how do you guys feel about these type of movies coming out? Do you feel like they're exploiting us now? This is the new thing, like the old slave movies are not working for them no more. How do you guys feel?
Well,
Okay with it. I'm fine with these movies coming out and pulling out our stories. They are our stories. We are unique in that way. Now, if that was the only thing to come out, then I would have a problem. But I think for a while we've had a lot of drug dealer movies where we've only played the drug dealer and there was no talk about our history. And if you think about it, many of these movies that do come out that do look at our pain, we don't recognize our pain, and when we are presented with it, we kind of shy away from it. So it's a teachable moment in that part, and I think that overall, as long as we don't oversaturate with it, it could be an opportunity to go ahead and share our stories with us, because there are stories that we don't remember or recall that even happened, or even things that we look at from a different perspective that we can take a look at by looking at these stories. So I'm okay with it.
Agreed. 100%.
The movie's name is Equal Standard, by the way. Um, here's what you make very valid points, but the thing is timing. It's not the fact that it's a bad thing, because of course even white movies with predominantly white characters, they have history telling, things that are, like you say, teachable moments. But in this, the timing is off. We were coming fresh off of the George Floyd or the Derek Chauvin trial, the Ma'Khia Bryant incident, and so on and so forth. And it's like, hey guys, equal standard. You remember what cops? It's like, yo, I don't want to remember this. I'm not trying to relive this.
Rose.
So it's like, you can tell the other stories, and just like you said, there needs to be more of that as opposed to an oversaturation of black pain. Like, all right, where's the black fantasy? You get your what's the one on HBO, guys? Help me out. That everybody loves. Lovecraft. You have Lovecraft, but where's our Game of Thrones? Where's our spy, based joint? Where's our, there's so many things that can be done other than black pain. And right now it's like everybody else is getting their own version of whatever, except for us. We're only getting the Equal Standards or the Them on Hulu. And it's like, yo, or Snowfall, where it's like back to the old drug dealing trope, which, I'm not saying I'm not trying to turn a blind eye to it, but I'm like, yo, this is not all we're about. Give me more Insecures, give me more Lovecrafts, give me more something,
Okay. I agree with you totally, because when you go into it, just remember how the 90s TV was. You were sitting there watching shows like Moesha, the Cosby Show, before all the stuff. These were all shows that uplift the black person, as well as they showed the family and they showed what was really going on. So some were more fictional than others, but Fresh Prince, maybe that's how somebody lived their life. But at the same time, it's like I would love to see these type of shows again, because they're gone. We haven't seen them seen these types of happy endings or continue to always be good. You know what I mean? After the first season, things tend to go disappearing. Like if you don't go on to Oprah's channel on OWN, you're not going to find a lot of these on our regular channels, or the movies are on there. Netflix is now just starting to pick up the steam a little bit with some of these titles, and then I feel like they're doing a decent job in some of their casting, because there was a show with Jamie Foxx that just came out, and then that was kind of cool so far that I started watching. So I definitely agree.
Okay, one of the things that I wanted to go ahead and mention about these movies and things that are coming out, and they're pushing this message historically. When we think about the early abolitionist movements that were happening, when when slavery was big in this country, a lot of that push was coming from the writing that people were doing, different things that they were putting out messages. And at that time, people were saying, hey, you keep putting out these messages and this is annoying and this is too much and we don't want it. And, we want something else. There's more to it than the pain of Black folk. And what I want to remind, all of us is that this is not the time to be distracted with, entertainment. We are literally, we sat dormant for years after the civil rights movement. We kind of just, okay, we're equal now. And we kind of just took a break and relaxed. And, we looked to be entertained and we looked to do these things and kind of got distracted. Ultimately, it's left us in a position where a lot of things, that we didn't take care of got pushed back. And we forgot that, hey, we are still in a very peculiar position in this country where we're, mistreated. And we have to continue to, keep that at the front of our heads and deal with that. And yes, these movies can get redundant and they can be, pressing and say, all right, yes, I get it. We were hurt or whatever. Good. Then you should know that we need to go ahead and continue to make movement and change. There are things that still have not been done since the civil rights movement. And we took a long break before we addressed any of that stuff. And to see that in the movies reminds not only us, but the kids, under us, hey, these stories are out here. They're telling us about what has happened before. And now we can visualize it because that's the medium that we're using to go ahead and send out the message. Kids aren't reading these books and going back and looking for those types of things. But now they're watching these movies that are being presented to them one way or another. And they're being able to go ahead and see, hey, wait a minute, we need to keep this at the forefront that, we're not treated equal and we need to be pushing for these rights. That's what these movies do. And, as frustrating as it is, you have to think about, it is frustrating. It should be frustrating that we have to continue to tell these stories like this because we can't take a break until there's actual change done. That's where I'm at with it.
And I also wanted to add that a lot of, at least now, especially now with a big push for diversity, whether it's genuine or just for optics, a lot of these newer movies are being written and directed by Black creators, and it's giving them opportunities to add more context to history that was, like you said, Reg, that was either completely omitted or changed around or softened. And
right.
There's a lot of stuff in the last year that I'm sorry to sound like a broken record. I find it crazy that I learned that Booker T. Washington was a survivor of Tulsa. Mind you, I barely knew about Tulsa outside of maybe a glimpse of it on PBS many years ago, and then Lovecraft, just to find out that he was a survivor of that. That was never mentioned, not one time in my American history class. And I took AP American history. Black history was not covered, barely covered. Cliff notes of the cliff notes. So I don't think these things we can shy away from. And sometimes we let outrage lead before we think about the nuances on why these things are being put out. Now, is Hollywood here to exploit people? It is. That's a fact. You think they're putting out these comic book movies because they love comics? No, they know people show up, people talk about it, and they're going to put money in it. And, Black rights is in the forefront. It's been very hot more in the last few years than ever. So, yeah, they're cashing in on it. But I do think it is a double-edged sword, but I do think it is important to tell these stories because, shit, a lot of us do not know Black history. We don't. So, there are so many horror stories that have happened that are still actually perpetuating right now that people are not even aware of. And they need to be told. And especially if they're being told by Black people, it needs to be told and not be forgotten. And I'll just end with this. Have you ever heard anybody say, I'm sick of Holocaust movies, we're done with this? Will you ever hear that? Hell no. No. It needs to be said. These stories need to be told.
And to play devil's advocate, I want to say Reg and Nikki, how would you feel? Because I'm going to bring up an old classic, beloved Academy Award nominated movie called Street Fighter, starring Jean Claude Van Damme and the creation of the monster they called Blanca. What they were doing with conditioning him, they were to make him more warlike and make him more ravaging. They were feeding him a 24-hour continuous stream of war and terribleness and nothing. And then, but once Van Damme but Dalsim, who was the compassionate doctor, started to show him more softer things like bunnies and animals and flowers, and it's all conditioning. So it goes back to what this is. If you're showing black pain, constantly without the balance of black success or black comedy or black fantasy, I think it's not only like, but if it's something like Nikki was talking about, where it's like, okay, there was a man named Crispus Jones who owned half of Boston, and you're like, yo, I never knew that. Tell those stories. That's fine. But if it's like, okay, let's just make up a movie about cops beating up people, and it's like, okay, we're aware that happens, but you're right. It's going to incite us, but is it teaching? Is it a teachable moment, or is it just like, hey, y'all remember this? Yeah, look at that.
It depends on the
Done. It's
creator.
like, yo, right.
It depends
Think
on the
about a
creator
movie
and
like
who and what their purpose is.
Street
I
Fighter,
think.
best movie in the world.
I think it depends on the creator. Like the show them, it got a lot of heat, but Lena Waithe is one of the producers on that, and I believe a lot of the episode writers are African American, and I think they're filtering. And the show does touch on the psychological aspects of black pain and the breakdown. It's not just the violence of it, but how it affects and traumatizes people. These are things that are not discussed. Black people as a whole, it's now we're getting into talking about PTSD and
And
generational trauma,
redlining and generational trauma and all this other
and
stuff.
these things need to be told. Like, a lot of people kind of forget and like to gloss over these things, and they feel like, oh, you're exploiting my pain, you're traumatizing me. And it's like, these things are not, they're traumatizing and they're not pleasant, but they're real and they are happening. So it's like, either we're going to talk about it or not, but we're going to talk about it. And I think in these films, if it's done correctly with care and not, and you're giving opportunity to the writers, especially the people that were born from that experienced it, and you're letting them tell these stories correctly, then it should be told. And I'll play devil's advocate again. Black people need to show up for the other stuff, for the other weird stuff that, like, Lovecraft was never trending on Shade Room. I don't recall it.
No, it was because everybody showed up as I'm not the Smollett
Oh, the
woman.
Smollett chick. Okay.
Yeah, everyone showed up
I'll
dressed
take
up as
that.
her for Halloween. So yeah.
So I'll take that back. But there's a lot of other stuff. There are a lot of other shows that don't really get talked about that much. Root for these other actors when they are in these other shows and other movies that aren't stereotypical roles. We have to care about these other things too. So I feel like, if we want it, pay, show up with our dollars, show up with the social media, show up. There's 1,000 other things. They're smaller shows, but they're out there. If you're looking for it and you want it, you'll find it. The same way you can find, the lighter comedic stuff, you can find the more cerebral, interesting black sci-fi. Those things exist. They're out there. So I think we have to show it. But I do believe these stories are not told. It's not taught in school. And if this can be a great way for history to be told, not just through entertainment, but really inform people. And the reality is, people are not reading, like Reg said. So it is a good way to kind of sprinkle this information, like, hey, this happened. You should know about this. So
The
that's how
medicine
I
and the
see it.
candy. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
you're right. Because even with social media, as a matter of fact, last year was literally the first time I heard about Central Park being originally a successful black colony or part of Manhattan. And I was like, excuse me? That they just got rid of everybody that was there and then just made Central Park. I never knew this. I never learned this.
Yeah.
So I would love a documentary or maybe even a mini series or a film telling that kind of thing to show people like, hey, It's not that, bootstraps. We did bootstraps. We were successful and we were thriving at one point, but it's just that the government or racists or whatever would always come and
And
squash whatever it is. Yeah. So
I think that when we look at certain things, like for example, I remember when a little while ago after Judas and the Black Messiah had came out, and you were like, "Hey, yo, did you guys see this? This got to me." And the first thing I thought was, "Wow, this story that has been around but hasn't really gotten much rotation. Now they've taken it and put it into a movie, and people have started seeing this, and they realize, oh my God, I can't believe that the government was involved in this and that the police were involved in this to this degree, and they would go to stoop to this level to do this to these people and what have you, and it made people feel a ways. And when after the election we started seeing that there was all this new legislation trying to be pushed through for voter suppression, it was like, oh yeah, you know, the government's always doing stuff like this, and it's a reminder, like, hey, the fight was never over. It's a continuous fight and a continuous struggle, and there's always going to be things that happen where your rights are at risk. And it was, and as entertaining as the movie was, it was that reminder that
he would get in the zone.
And he lost in it in the
he was best with the Knicks.
That's literally what just happened to Reds. And
that's how I teach my classes. I be in it. I be deep and going through it. I have my concepts going. I be from people looking at me like, wow. Like, yeah.
He has a aura around him and everything.
They're like, oh, it's time to go. My God.
To see words, pages, excerpts from books floating around his head. Toussaint Louverture in his uniform just like floats past. The red just going. The graduation cap, you know what I'm saying? Like a diploma flying by.
Oh, man.
Going into the next topic of COVID dating. All right, so I got just recently there was a new article saying that there has been a spike in condom sales. Getting ready for the hot summer COVID, dating. So I wanted to go ahead and ask you guys how it is. How is it with dating and COVID? Are you guys scared? Is there any requirements? What are you guys feeling? What are you guys doing?
You know what? Go ahead, Nikki. Take it away.
My bad.
Nah, you got it.
I was gonna say, I think for most, COVID didn't change that much of people's dating habits. I was joking earlier. I was like, did AIDS stop dating people from dating? It did it. It didn't. I know that's kind of extreme, and I'm not making light of that. But yeah, COVID. I think the initial when people were dying in massive numbers, it scared a lot of people, and they stayed away. But I don't think COVID is going to change people's impulses, and a lot. The dating has been affected by the internet for long before COVID anyway, and I think it only just added more to it. So I don't think it changed as much as we think it did.
Do you feel it's more digital now, or do you feel it's still everybody's still meeting up?
People are gonna want to meet up now. Now that restrictions are lifted, you don't have to have the mask. You don't have curfew anymore. They're gonna be all on each other now more than ever. Look at all those parties in Atlanta and in Miami and Texas.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
They ain't stop. COVID ain't stop nobody.
Even before, because the thing is, yeah, absolutely. In the beginning, people were terrified. It was like, the Rona, you got the Rona, get away from me. But after a while, we're sociable creatures. It's like, yo, look, I'm feeling it. I need to see somebody. And then, people were still hooking up. People were still dating. And
I think that fear only hit the big cities because they're all so concentrated in close quarters. But
that's true too.
All the southern cities with big suburbs, they didn't give a damn. COVID never happened according to those
COVID be damned.
Spring break was rolling around just fine, like normal.
Oh man, the videos from spring break in Miami where the cops had to, shut off the bridge, close off the bridge, and then you would see people just making out, riots of people running left and right in groups, not one single mask. I don't know, that would have given me anxiety being out there.
Yo, but some people being isolated for so long, it does that to you. You can't wait to see the next person, and you're like, yo, yes, anything, somebody.
Anyone.
Yeah, man. And
people to be alone for a long time.
Yeah, man.
Themselves, and now you have this hope, this new shot. I don't know if everybody's getting a shot before they go meet people.
They're not.
They're not.
And that's concerning. That's troubling because you got all kinds of things to worry about now. I don't want to be worried about COVID and herpes. You gotta.
The only shot people getting is the old hot beef injection. That's the only. Shout out to the Breakfast Club movie.
Yeah, you go with that, you're gonna end up with a good shot of penicillin or
a healing concoction. It's got half vaccine, half turmeric.
Make sure it has the sea moss.
Sea moss.
Cayenne pepper.
It'll burn whatever's
in there. Burn it out.
Garlic.
Yo, the logic behind some of this stuff, all right, whatever.
I'm not gonna even lie.
Damn it.
Yo, I'm not gonna lie. So my mother, she made me, bless her heart, she made me this concoction. This thing smelled so bad, and they called this the COVID killer. You take a shot of this, and it feels like rubbing alcohol going straight down your chest. You feel the COVID coming out of you.
I put it around the whole outside of my house. Keep the roaches out. Keep the iguanas away.
Oh yeah, raw onions and
witnesses away from the house.
But let me tell you, that stuff is what's keeping Haiti as the lowest, affected country on the planet. All right, so you better drink that rubbing alcohol. All right,
that mepow.
Wash it down with babonku, okay? It saves lives. Damn it! Ain't no COVID no more. Don't put that. I'm joking, people. I'm joking.
I know, right? Please wear your mask. Wash your hands, people, please.
Before we get a disclaimer with this disinformation about COVID. that stuff on Instagram when you see the propaganda videos or the conspiracy videos, and it's like real information about COVID. I'm like, oh shit, they already flagged you.
You can't even say the word. You just gotta say virus, or else they're gonna flag you. So
yeah,
please be safe, people. Okay, y'all know what to do.
Word.
So this was a short episode. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. I am your host, D-Man, Derek.
I am Relative Alex, aka Funzy. Good night, y'all.
Nick signing off.
Relative Reg. Be easy, people.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us for episode 5 of the podcast. Next week, we got some great stuff coming for you, so stay tuned. Talk to you guys later. Bye.
Peace.